All right, Lions fans. This is your guy. I'm not a Lions fan, but I am here with another video, and this one is not on the sport itself or the defense or either side of the field, but this is going to be based upon the team as a unit and what has been coming together for, let's say, 3 years. Uh, I could say 3 plus. Started from Quinn all the way up to Patricia, up to well, say from Quinn when Quinn first got here to now. I have seen this team lose decade after decade, and the, I would say there has been one common denominator when it comes to the win and loss with this organization. I can always say, I can count on my hand to say that this team will find a way to lose. In other words, they will find a way to self implode, and so I want to say it was a wall. There was an invisible wall, a mental wall that needed to be tore down. And I saw different coaches come in with the militant or even players coach type mentality or a freelancer or different types of coaches coming from different perspectives trying to tear down this invisible wall. This invisible wall has been up, let's say, since the Super Bowl era. Who knows if it goes past professional sports? It could be, behind the scenes if it's money based or what. Who knows? Who knows? But if I were to keep it strictly on the sport and say like everything legit, everything legitimate, and so forth, and I'm going to say this invisible wall consists of the only way that it could be tore down. It's like how the bad boys did it, and I'm not gonna say I could say going to work, but I go away from them for a minute. To go to work crew, the Pistons going to work crew, but I'm gonna stick with the bad boys. Bad boys, the Pistons up to that point till they won their first title. What was that? '89. They went through a lot of losing, and I want to say from the start of Isaiah. Isaiah was drafted in '81, I believe, 81, '83, somewhere around there. Let's say from the start of him being here, they did a lot of losing to get all the way up to you know to the '89 title. They even lost in the finals the year before that. But and the year before that, they lost in the Eastern Conference. But anyway, the point of me bringing them up is the very significance of this team. When Jack McCloskey and Chuck Daly took over the Pistons organization, it changed the whole dynamic. How they're going to put together a team, and the putting together a team starts with your core base. And I'm not talking about players. Your the top positions of the organization has to be in line. It's building blocks. You're only going to build it in the image of, in other words, the structure will only be good as the foundation. And I'm looking at this, fast forward to this team, and how this team is similar to how the Bad Boys was developed. It's just the same. I remember the year that when the Bad Boys, when it was in the Eastern Conference Finals, and I believe it was the year or the year after that the infamous collision on the court between Adrian Dantley and I believe Vinnie Johnson. They both was diving for the ball and they both collided heads, and I think one of them got knocked out of the game, and that was the end of that run for that year. But they came back the next year. They came back even stronger. So they added a few more pieces. This remind me of that when I heard the Lions was practicing outdoors, and I was like, good. And I saw the approach that Patricia was taking. He was taking an approach. In other words, I'm going to build up something, and I'm going to see who's going to be with it, who's going to be against it. They don't necessarily mean that's what it's going. That's going to be the foundation, but it's like a test, if you will, a prover test, a performance test. And when I heard the outburst from the leaders saying what they said. And then going into that year or the next year, when that self same player is being disgruntled about something, so that means the authority is being challenged. You, if that's your leader, then your team is going to falter. It's like Isaiah Thomas going up against Chuck Daly. If Chuck Daly were to say, we're going to do a scrimmage, we're going to do 5-on-5, but I'm going to have, instead of having Isaiah and Joe on the same side, I'm going to have Isaiah checking Joe. And let's say Isaiah, I don't want that. What I want to be able to be on the same side with Joe. The team will never be developed because it's in a split of voices. It's not unified. So until they came unified, how did they become unified? They embraced being the bad boys. Someone in the media threw out, I don't know if it was a newspaper ad or whatever that it was, but it was suggesting that the Pistons were dirty for the league and so forth. And so instead of them running from it or denying it, they embraced it. But it unified them. They came together. It really became Detroit Pistons versus everybody else, and they played that way. Even when the infamous of them walking off the court and not shaking the Bulls' hand in '91, whatever. They stood together. Even to this day, they still stand together for the most part. I'm finally seeing that in the Lions organization. Finally seeing a unification. And I'm going to start it where the foundation is. I'm going to start it with Matt Patricia. Matt Patricia is the foundation. Anybody who has a problem with that, that's a part of this organization, is going to have a problem with it altogether succeeding. He is the guy that's going to get them a Super Bowl. And I'm going to go on the record to say that the Lions will be in the NFC title game this year. If they don't make it to the Super Bowl this year, they'll make it definitely next year. But I can see them being in the title game this year. Why? Because the team is finally facing the mental wall. I have never seen, of watching decades of the Lions, ever seen them unified. Always seem to come together on a tragic situation, the Mike Utley situation or anything or something like that. They came together on an emotional. I don't want to say it's touchy, but emotional situations, and they played on the field emotionally. So the field display was never disciplined. It's not taught. It's not cultured. It's not groomed. It's just a fluke, if you will. So if you look at the teams that they have always assembled, it has been on that type of deal. It have never been in a unification from all members of the field, the organization, the coaching staff. I have never seen the team as an organization. So for the past 3 years, you have heard somebody say, you have heard a guy like myself say that give Patricia his guys. And I went on the record saying like his guys is not necessarily players that played with him in New England. His guys who can see what he throws on the board. If he threw something on the whiteboard, they could be able to take that off the whiteboard and apply it to the field. Those are his guys. If you have a problem with what you see on the board, there's no way you're going to demonstrate that on the field. You will say that you pretty much have the mindset that you know more than him. So anyway, with that being said, Patricia finally got his guys. I gave you in a prior video. I gave you 5 anchors on this team. I gave you Trey Flowers. I gave you Danny Amendola. I gave you Jelani Tavai. I believe I said Tracy Walker and Kenny Galladay. Those are your 5 anchors. No. I'm sorry. I misspoke. I'm sorry. I misspoke. Let me say that again. Trey Flowers, Frank Ragnow. I think I have 5 and I added 6. It's Frank Ragnow, Trey Flowers, Kenny Galladay, Denny Amendola, and Tracy Walker. But I took out Tracy Walker and I put in either Deron Harmon or Jamie Collins, and you have your team. So Kenny Galladay is like going to benefit off of Amendola. The rest of the linebackers is going to benefit off of Jamie Collins. The secondary is going to benefit off of Trufant and Deron Harmon. So, and the defensive line is going to benefit off of Trey Flowers. You got the guy who I'm intrigued by is, I believe it's Danny Shelton. I believe that's who he, and I am really excited by him. But anyway, they got the guys that will take what Patricia throws on the board and implement on the field without excuses. You saw how Trey Flowers responded in the incident last year. I I presented a question to some guys on the social media, asking, is Trey Flowers a leader in the locker room, or as well as on the field? Do you consider him a leader in the locker room as well as on the field? And then I followed up with that question by saying, can you imagine five more of those guys on your team? That's what you brought in when you brought in Deron Harmon, Jamie Collins, Trufant, and Shelton, and Danny Amendola, and I'm going to go out there on a dark horse and say Jeffrey Okuda. You brought in guys that's that type of guy, and that starts from Quinn. Quinn saw what is. This is makes Quinn brilliant. He saw Patricia and what his type of guy was. That's where they both on the same page, because they probably developed the same type of guy when they was in New England. The guy that there's no nonsense, IQ, technique, has talent, and but know how to implement it on the field. With have the freelance with all that, has the freelance to improve each year. And I believe when they scout for talent or they looking for free agents, they are looking for that kind of recipe. Not just a guy who's athletic, who can play different things and so forth. It's a certain type of guy that they're trying to bring together here as a part of the foundation. Why that's so significant, because you got a mental wall in Detroit. The only way that mental wall is going to be torn down if you have such players that is unified and has the same type of makeup. Regardless of their background, they have been through hardships, but they knew how to handle it, and versus the situation handling them. Let's say Jamie Collins, he left New England because of the mishap, whatever happened there, and he goes to Cleveland and didn't work out. But he goes back to New England and it works out. You take that guy and you put him on your team. Why? Because he showed that in the midst of a bad situation, he may have handled it differently, whatever, could have handled it better, whatever. He goes to another organization and he's like, well, I learned myself, or he learned or taught himself or matured at this new situation. Then he goes back and shows the maturity on the field. So you bring that to your team to add that to your leader on your team, which is Trey Flowers. So I am really excited about this team, and I have been excited all ever since Patricia took over. I've been really excited. The moment that he gave the suggestion to practice in the snow, and then you heard the uphill when the uproar, even including he had a heel on the field. He is the only way that you're going to win in Detroit is that you're going to have to defeat the wall, the invisible wall of self imploding. And that's where mediocrity, that's where they have always been. That's why the ceiling of that wall has always been 8-8. And every now and again, they will overachieve. It will be a fluke of an achievement, because if it was more than a fluke, they will repeat it the following year. You will see the implements of what they done one year. You will see it in the next year. But of course, during those times of 91, and so forth, and even 94, 95, that those times when the records was being broken and the wins was coming in, the reason why I didn't sustain themselves, because they couldn't keep the players. Like I said, it wasn't unified from the top all the way down to the bottom. It wasn't unified. It was so many individuals that was on a their own separate agenda. I'm here because of, and okay, you can even have that with the assembling of this team now for the players that they brought in this year, last year, year before, uh, and even the drafts that brought in even before Patricia got here, and they the ones are still the ones that are on the team now. And with that being said, they have assembled all that, but what's bringing them together? They are coming together. Look at what they're doing. Like, they had a team meeting, whatever, and it was off schedule. It was just, and it was all on unison. They're like the bad boys. They embrace being together. I have never seen a team in a of the Lions organization, or from the Lions organization, that has come together as a unit outside of a tragic situation or some kind of emotional situation. They're actually choosing to come together. This is the right time for them to actually go to the Super Bowl. Why I say that? Because all the pieces are in place. And when I say pieces, people may equate that to players. No, I'm talking about the mindset, the maturity mindset, the approach, the direction, the goal, the attention to detail. You have a lot of players who have been there and done it. You have a lot of players, but you never had a lot of these players come together on in an organization such as the Lions. This is let's call it a spade a spade. This is according to football terms, this is a horrific organization to be a part of, and as in sports related. That's why they get all the shots on the media news, the negative shots, that is, and they waiting for the ball to drop with the Detroit Lions organization for anything, so they can just go ahead and throw them around, kick them while they down. But this is the first time, and the first coach, the first general manager, down to the let's say the equipment managers, the people behind the scenes, the salary cap people, the financial people, let's say it that way, the owners, the assistant coaches, the positional coaches, the players, the equipment management, everything is on one accord. And people could say, well, this is what Patricia wanted. Have you ever, in a Lions organization, since you've been following the Lions, have you ever seen any coach or any GM have that type of camaraderie from all aspects of the organization? It's all on one unison. Now people say like, well, they imitating and emulating what New England did. Well, then New England is emulating what the Giants did, and the Giants, you could say, was emulating what the Redskins was doing. The Redskins emulating what the 49ers was doing. You talk about any team that's considered a dynasty. Dallas Cowboys, you could say that too. Any team that has a dynasty, from the top to bottom, they have to be on the same page. That's inside and out. This is the first time of me watching the Lions uh, team, or as an organization. I've seen them coming together, and the players that they brought in, they could you have got better talent in certain positions? I mean, certain players that they brought in, probably so, talent wise, but they don't fit the other. They don't check off the other boxes. They need guys that is positioned to tear down an invisible wall. Because the Lions is not playing against the other team. It may look like that on the field, and they may even sound crazy to somebody who's listening. But they're not playing against the other team. The Lions never play against the other team. They can beat the other team. They show it. They could beat the other team. The problem with the Lions is that they always beat themselves. So the Lions is never playing against the opposing team. They always playing against themselves. How do they find a way to not self-implode or self-destruct? And I believe they are coming together where they are not just holding each other accountable. I don't think it's necessarily that as much as they enjoying to be together. You know what I mean? And not on no separate agenda. It's a it's a like if I want to start with the foundation of Patricia, and people say he's a bad coach, his systems don't work or this or that, and This is what I propose to the Lions fans. If you're going to be a Lions fan, this is reason. This is number one reason why I'm not a Lions fan, because I would say it costs too much to be a Lions fan. Just like I leave that alone. But it costs too much to be a Lions fan. I don't mean money wise, but in terms of energy, it costs too much because you really have to be miserable to really be a Lions fan. I've been in this city for 40 plus years, so I've been following the Lions for since Billy Sims. And Billy Sims was my guy. But you have to really be miserable to be a Lions fan. To be above a Lions fan, you're talking about leading the horse. You know what I mean? You have to really separate from all the losing and all the track, all the situational stuff that we have saw, the constant over and over bad decisions, bad moves, bad this. That's misery that I refuse to be a part of. That's why I'm not a Lions fan. I am going on the record to say that they will be a great team and a great organization this year. In spite of that, in spite of all that stuff of years of doing it that way, they're doing it a different way, and they have been doing it for since Quinn took over. It has been totally different. And if for a person to say that Patricia's system doesn't work, I disagree. If you got an opposing coach, defensive coordinator, coach, whatever, is changing their philosophy how they play against you, it works. Now, the problem with what the fans may have saw is that the Lions couldn't finish the deal. They could get the team up to the mountaintop, but they couldn't cross over. They couldn't climb over the mountain. So that's why they would lose those games at those crucial moments. I'm talking about for the last past year. If it didn't work, then your team don't go from a bottom defensive team to a top 10 team when you get snacks. And one player changes everything. Yeah, okay, all right, whatever. Okay, okay. All right, that's that. Somebody may say that's from the run statistics, the Russian statistics. I hear that, but did your defense change? He had one guy to do one assignment, but at the same time, that's not a guy that you can build on. So you have to replace that. You actually replaced that with Danny Shelton. I'm sorry, you just did, and it his system works so well that the players that he brought in here is coming together on a separate agenda. And what I mean by that, not an individual agenda or a unified agenda. The players that he brought in. The players that he brought in came in on a separate agenda, a unified agenda. Not an individual agenda, but a separate agenda. It's not about football. If you're going to win here with in any if any professional sport is going to win in Detroit, you have to. It's a spiritual negative stigma that is attached to Detroit sports. No matter if they win or they lose, it's just attached. It's a stench that won't move. But you have to be mentally strong. Like when you get a couple calls on you and you don't give in to it. They cheating us and everything else. You just handle it like it doesn't matter, or not just that it doesn't matter, but you can improve it. You can be better than that. I can beat them. I can beat. They call it the zebras. You can beat the calls. You can beat You can beat, and it's going to take that group of guys. That's what made the bad boys so special. Because instead of them running from them being called the bad boys, they embraced it. They wasn't trying to be the bad boys. They was just tired of getting pushed around from the media, from players, from teams getting over on. They just got tired of it, and so they retaliated. And you only can kick a dog around for so long before eventually, comes to its instincts of protecting itself, and you may regret what you did. This is what the Lions is brewing now, starting with Patricia on down. His system works. He just didn't have the leaders to back him up. Now he have his leaders. Just look at the media. I mean the training camp interview that they're doing. They had a closeout. They had a canceled practice and had an in-house meeting instead. They're coming together mentally. It has nothing to do with football. Mentally, that's the only way you're going to win in this city. With that being said, watch the Lions do what they do. NFC title game, title champs, Super Bowl. If they don't win the Super Bowl this year, if they go to the Super Bowl and they don't win it this year, they'll win it next year. If they go to the title game and don't get to the Super Bowl, they're definitely going to the Super Bowl the following year. All right, Lions fan, we out.